People of a certain age, certainly my age, fell in love with the Ford Capri a long time ago. And I have owned, I think, 3 Ford Capris. A man here with me at the moment, Andrew Bentley, he had the privilege of driving this Bastos liveried Capri in yesterday's Gerry Marshall Trophy. It was the 2-driver 45-minute race. Andrew, I was out there in the stands watching, and it would look like a lot of fun from where I was. What was it like from where you were?
I was a little bit upset when they put the checkered flag out because I was just having so much fun in it. We had a little problem with the engine that the team sorted out brilliantly, and so in qualifying we weren't really where we wanted to be, but actually that made it more fun and entertaining. The owner, Richard Mines, he drove brilliantly and gave me the opportunity to kind of run up the grid a little bit more. But you know, what a car to drive. Goodwood. It's very unforgiving and you've got to be so committed, but to be honest, the Capri lets you do that. It's fantastic.
Been around all of those saloon cars that have got a very rich history and heritage in the British Championship and the European Saloon Car Championships. That must have been quite something when you look across and there's a Dolomite Sprint, there's the Fabergé Camaro. It's like from a young man like yourself, just a little bit too young to have been around in that period, but you still, I know you appreciate the history.
Yeah, I'm a racing driver because I love racing. You know, I came into it from that angle. So I recognise the heritage, I recognise the history, and I recognise the liveries. You know, I'm maybe a little bit young to kind of watch these racing as such, but yeah, I know the brands, I know the logos, and I know the cars, and it's just genuinely such an exciting thing for a racing driver who loves motorsport to be able to drive these competitively, as you would in the day. Against some of the drivers who are racing them in the day around a circuit, maybe not that they use, but you know, of the ilk. So it's just such a great privilege to be here, but also, you know, such a great event and such a great weekend as well.
Now you've come from what I would call contemporary racing, aero cars with aerodynamics, wide slick tyres, lots of grip, all about threading the needle, isn't it? All about precision. Completely different style of driving, this Ford Capri, isn't it?
Yeah, but there are still similarities. So you kind of get caught up. It's very easy to jump out of a modern car with loads of grip, jump into this. There's not as much grip, if not, almost any, and then slide about and think that's the way that you do it. Well, you do obviously have to slide it around, but you still actually end up coming back to the base principles of driving. You know, you've got to be neat, you've got to be tidy. There are some guys out there doing enormous skids, leaving rubber all over the place. They're quick enough, but actually, you know, if you come back to your basics, yes, you are sliding, but you still have to employ all the things that you need to know about. And once you start getting into that sort of modern way of driving again, with a bit more sideways action, you get quick.
And you're here this weekend. You're quite a busy weekend for you. You're here with your partner Richard Mines. You're racing an E-Type in one of the other races.
Yeah, totally different to this. Totally different. A car with great history, and this is much more grip, and that's much quicker with less grip and no brakes whatsoever. So you've got to be a little bit careful jumping out of this and jumping into that, because if you get the wrong brake point, then you're in all sorts of trouble. But what a great car! I mean, that's just glorious to drive as well. So smooth, and you have to float that around again. If you're over driving that, you really know about it.
And Goodwood, the circuit. I know you're not unfamiliar at all with Goodwood, but in something like an E-Type, as you've said, different to the Capri, but something like an E-Type, you can see why circuits were designed and the way. Thankfully, Goodwood has stayed exactly as it was, and it really does suit that flowing style of how you have to drive things like the E-Type.
Exactly, flow is absolutely the right word to use there. A modern circuit is very much stop-start. You're looking at overtaking opportunities in big brake zones, hairpins, etc. Thankfully, there's nothing like that here because those cars just don't work. So the style of car that is here suits the style of circuit, and you've got to really, flow through the corners, carry speed, and the awkward bit is the chicane. Other than that, the rest of it's just pick your line, and hopefully you stick to it.
I was just talking to someone. That chicane was put in to slow the circuit down because you came out of Woodcote and you went all the way, which would have been horrifically fast into the first turn. Thankfully, they put that chicane. Now, 2019, what's it got in store for Andrew Bentley and Richard Mines?
So we're actually, we're teammates again with Richard's son Jack. We're competing in the Fun Cup UK all season, and we had our first race at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago, and we're up at Alton next weekend. Jack's first season in racing, but he's done brilliantly already. He's nearly as fast as his dad, so Richard's got to watch out for that.
Richard's looking at retirement then when that happens.
I think that might be his long-term plan. So he's doing really well in that, and then hopefully we can do the Spa 25 as well. That's the plan coming up. And then racing-wise, outside of that, as a pro driver, you just kind of pick up bits and bobs all the way through.
And you're enjoying your time in historic racing because you're fairly new to historics, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting more into it, and I'm loving it. It's definitely a part of my career that I'm really enjoying, and I certainly would like to do more.
Great to see you. And he's embracing the historics. Look at the cap.